Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Tuesday. Brian Kamenetzky, Andy Kamenetzky, huge win for the Lakers at the Crypt, thanks to Dorian, Finney-Smith, and Gabe, Vincent. Who knew?
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everyone for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how, where you get your podcasts. This one's always free, never behind a paywall, and Locked On Lakers on YouTube. So we're over 34,000 subscribers are excited about what the Lakers got at the Crypt tonight. Not just a win, Andy, but a win where the big three, not the greatest game for any of them offensively, at least. All three made contributions in other areas. And the offense was fueled by guys from the supporting cast. So it was a really interesting win for the Lakers. Plenty to like in it. 104-98 is the final score over the Houston Rockets. We will break all of this down momentarily. But first, I do want to let people know that today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. This, Andy, as you could tell by a 19-16 score after the first quarter, was not a work of art. In a lot of ways, it really did play out in the way that our friend Jack Gatlin said in the preview that we did for this game. Like, Rockets, bad offensive team, defend the hell out of you, play really hard. That's what this game was, and the Lakers kind of won it on Houston's terms.
Yeah, Jackson also had said that he predicted that Ime Udoka, the defensive strategy, was going to be really try to make it difficult for any of the Lakers' big three, the guys really controlling the offense, to make headway, to really get any type of traction. It was interesting. I mean, the Lakers in that first quarter where they only scored 16, you and I were texting about it, they were getting actually pretty good looks. Like, they were generating a lot of good looks, and it felt like the offense, outside of LeBron, Luka, or Reaves getting clean looks for themselves, the offense was functioning pretty well, but the shots weren't dropping. I actually tweeted out at Cam Brothers, if it felt to me like if the Lakers kept being patient and methodical with what they were doing, it would eventually get better. And it did. Like, 104 points is not a lot, but when you consider
when you only scored 16,
right. I was correct. Ultimately, it did get better. I mean, not to pat ourselves on the back, but a lot of what we talked about in terms of what needed to be important for this game in the preview with Jackson Gatlin from Locked On Rockets, a lot of it ended up bearing out. Like, the importance, for example, of keeping Houston off the offensive glass, preventing them from getting second chance points. They lead the league with 18.3 second chance points per game for the season. In March, when they have been really, really good, winning a lot of games, they have been averaging 19.5 second chance points a game and 15.4 offensive rebounds. In this game, the Lakers held them to just 10 second chance points. Like, that's really good. And other than one, a lot of it was the third quarter. I mean, they had 0 second chance points, Houston, in the first half. I believe they had 8 of their 10 in the third quarter, but that was an area that the Lakers, I think, clearly identified. This is where Houston gets a lot of their points, like we said in that preview, as a volume play, and the Lakers cut down a lot of that volume.
Yeah, and JJ Redick talked about it after the game. He said, the game plan was, if you are matched up with Şengün, if you are matched up with Steven Adams, you're not getting the rebound. Your job isn't to get the rebound. Your job is to keep them from getting the rebound.
Yes.
Box out, somebody else goes and gets the rebound. I want to talk, maybe we'll get into the next segment or something. Before we're done, you kind of alluded to their offensive approach after a really slow start. There was so much I liked about what they did and how they approached it. And I want to make sure we give some time to that. But I mean, you look at the numbers, Andy. If I tell you against the second seed in the Western Conference, number 2 seed in the Western Conference, LeBron is going to go 5 of 12 and give you 16. Luka is going to go 6 of 16, 1 of 7 from 3 and give you 20. 16 shots to get 20 points. AR 12 points on 11 shots. How much did the Lakers lose by? I mean, honestly, I mean, I'm not trying to be flip here, but like we say it all the time, like you need 75 points, probably is sort of the baseline from those 3 guys on most nights to feel like you got a really good chance to win. In this one, they got 48 points from the big 3. Like, it's how badly do they lose this game? And instead they win in part because they played defense. They played, for the most part, discipline, a couple sloppy plays, but and they got clutch shooting performances from Dorian Finney-Smith and Gabe Vincent. Like, this was a supporting cast game, one of the few that we've had this season, really.
Both of those guys were terrific. They both hit 6 threes in this game. They both scored 20 points off the bench. Gabe Vincent, his 14 field goal attempts, 13 three-point attempts, not surprisingly, those are his highs as a Laker. And Gabe, JJ joked after the game a bit that there were a few more shots he actually wanted Gabe putting up. Like, he was asked something about, like, does Gabe need encouragement? Like, typically
it was he's talking about Finney-Smith.
Finney-Smith. But it's definitely striking for Gabe and striking for what DFS did as well. DFS was sensational in this game. 20 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks, 6 of 11 from behind the arc, 6 of 13 from the field. Like, he was the best Laker on the floor tonight. I mean, he was just on both ends of the floor. So good in this game. And like, this was the type of night, not that I think the DFS for D'Lo trade, and I think everydayers know Brian and I have been much bigger proponents of D'Angelo Russell than most Laker fans or people who cover the Lakers. But
still
we like the
trade.
Yeah, no, but I was going to say, we liked the trade when it happened and talked about the importance of, like, truly professional upper end role players. And, that Dorian Finney-Smith is considered one of the best 3-and-D players in the league. He's got a very adult in the room type vibe in terms of how he operates on the court. Mm-hmm. And you just cannot say enough. He and Vincent were both terrific. And this is coming off of a previous game where Gabe was at 5 threes in the first half. Like, Gabe has been on a bit of a heater of late, but just both those guys were great. But DFS was just unbelievable tonight.
We've had stretches over the course of the year where we've talked about, like, when Gabe is playing at a high level, I'm not talking about star, but like, performing his job at a high level, it changes the nature of the team. They're a different team when they can count on Vincent. And since the early injuries, he's been good. Like, he got off to a really slow start and it looked like, oh my God, what are we doing this contract again? We don't have a backup point guard. Like, can't rely on Jalen Hood-Schifino, and we're doing this again. Like, this is before everybody knew center problem. He's been fantastic. And it's what's really interesting. I think it was Robert Horry in the postgame show made a great observation about this. It's like, he can kind of really now do what he did in Miami, which was not playing a traditional point guard role in this. He's not like Chris Paul out there. Like, yes, he can handle the ball. He can set up an offense. He can distribute a little bit. But in Miami, he was a defender and a spot up shooter. I mean, that was, and drive the basket a little bit, whatever. But this is, they've got him because they have Luka, LeBron, and Reaves. He doesn't have to handle the ball in a meaningful way like that. I think that allows him to be kind of the best version of himself. And so you combine that with Dorian Finney-Smith, who, to add to the list of superlatives, literally everybody loves playing with him.
Yeah.
Everybody who's ever played with Dorian Finney-Smith loves having played with Dorian. Like, Luka loves him. Like,
anybody who has covered DFS, like, we did our series with Tim McMahon from ESPN, who wrote the book about Luka Doncic, the Wonder Boy, Luka Doncic, and the Curse of Greatness, which we've said, if you want to learn more about the Lakers' hopeful franchise star for the next decade, you should read this book. And I had him on Lakers Talk, my show for ESPN 710. But talking with Tim in between these interviews and stuff, getting a little bit of intel on DFS, he's just like, man, that guy's the best. He's like everybody loves him. Everyone loves him.
And I think there were a few things that about this win that I think are really good signs for what the Lakers could look like in the playoffs. And I want to get into both of them next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Monarch Money. Have you ever checked your bank account and wonder, where did all the money go? Like, between dining out and online shopping, entertainment, bills, it's easy to lose track, and children. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money, it's not just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track down all of your accounts and your investments and spending all in one place, so you can just stop managing your money and start building wealth. And you can enjoy convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, even plan long-term goals. You can enjoy collaboration. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, stay on the same page without stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for 50% off your first year.
Locked On Lakers is also brought to you by Prizepicks. Baseball season is in full swing, and there's no better way to get in on the action than Prizepicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prizepicks, Andy, you pick more or less on at least two player projections. And if you're right, you win up to 1,000 times your cash, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs. Prizepicks keeps every game exciting. You can get one of those torpedo bat guys and see what you can do there. You build your lineup. Maybe you're picking Aaron Judge for more than one home run. Seems to get 3 or 4 of those a game these days. Shohei Ohtani, maybe more than one stolen base. It's that easy. That's basically all you have to do. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 off instantly after you play your first $5 lineup, or $50 instantly after you play your first lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, run your game. So many things to like about this game. I mean, first of all, from a housekeeping standpoint, the Lakers, as we talked about, if you read the newsletter, the Locked On Lakers newsletter, which many of you are subscribing to, and others, you can go to lockedondaily.com, click on Locked On Lakers, and have it delivered to you every day. This put the Lakers, again, a little bit of daylight between them and the 7 seed. First and foremost, more than anything, the Lakers want to make sure they avoid the play-in. Winning this game keeps them in 4th by 2 games now over Memphis, plus the tiebreaker, and critically keeps them 3 games ahead of Minnesota, who is now currently the tied with the Clippers for the 7. So from that standpoint, the Lakers get a little breathing room for that first round playoff home court. They get a little more breathing room and they between the 7, and they can, they have a little cushion with Golden State with that game coming up on Thursday. So it's a big win. They keep themselves at least in spitting distance of Houston for number 2, and certainly only a game back of Denver in the 3. That part was good. I also love that the Lakers, like I mentioned in the first segment, it felt like they kind of won this game playing on Houston's terms, in the sense that it was not a high-flying, high-scoring game. It was very physical. It was defensively oriented. And they went toe-to-toe with a young team, with a lot of athletes. It's a type of team that typically has given the Lakers trouble. And they out-defended them when they needed to, and then were able to execute just enough offensively to generate the shots And that's why they won. It was pretty impressive in that regard.
It was a really gritty win. I mean, this is one that everybody, in a lot of ways, it was a nut check for him. Like you had to play defense at this type of level because the offense was just not going to be super prolific. It was a night where Houston was, we talked about daring guys like Gabe Vincent and Dorian Finney-Smith to beat them. And that's ultimately what happened. Like JJ talked after the game about how Rui, from a shooting perspective, was not good in this game. He was 3 of 10 overall, 1 of 6 from behind the arc, 2 steals, 2 rebounds. But like from an offensive perspective, as one of the guys being dared to take shots, he didn't come through. But I think JJ mentioned Rui because he wanted to point out he took the shots. Like he was happy to see Rui not hesitate because he has enough confidence in Rui, particularly from behind the arc, where he's been above 40% all season. Those shots are going to drop most nights. Like most nights, you don't need to worry about Rui scoring, particularly if he gets the ball enough and the opportunity enough. Like there was an emblematic moment tonight where Jordan Goodwin got set up for what was a clean look for a 3. And he hesitated for a second and he gave the ball up to LeBron, put LeBron in a bad position where he had to kind of put up a 3 in order to avoid, I think, a shot clock violation. The clock was run down pretty quick. He ended up missing the shot. Jordan ran all the way in and tracked down this offensive rebound and ended up getting a putback. And I described it on Twitter as like both great and redemptive effort. And it felt very in theme with this type of win tonight, which was just do whatever the bleep it takes to win this game.
And
just go hard.
You're kind of touching on the other part that I really liked about what they did is that what were they start 2 of 15 from 3, I think it was. I wrote it down, but I don't remember the exact number. It wasn't good. Whatever that number was, it wasn't good. 2 of 14. That's bad. But you know what they didn't do? They didn't start forcing the ball in other places. They didn't start trying to, like, Houston was making it very difficult to get in the paint. They have really good and mobile defenders all over the floor. They can protect a guy like Şengün, who's still, I mean, he's not a very stout guy. You can kind of push him around a little bit, but in the context of all these other guys, like they're obviously have figured out a way to make that work.
They have so many switchy athletes and guys like Van Vliet, who even, past his prime, and Dylan
Thompson
Brooks
is awesome.
Yeah. Like those guys may not be the most switchable in the world because of their size, but they're just very, very good defenders. And then just the amount of long rangy wings they have is kind of insane.
Yeah. It's just so, like, Houston is really well equipped and all that stuff. And the Lakers didn't stop doing what they were doing. They didn't, like, I saw a couple of people, like, I'm following the game like a lot of people on Twitter, looking for insights. People say some smart stuff and whatever, but I did see a few people like the too many threes. I'm like, no, these are open shots. And the second you stop taking good open shots because, like, you're cold as a team or whatever, that's when you start the everything breaks down, because you're passing up shots that are open and need to be taken for what? What is the thing that comes when you pass that up? They stuck with what they were going to do, with what the plan was, and they said, didn't panic, and eventually they started making the shots. And the poise with that, I thought was really good to see.
Especially, too, on a night where, like we talked about before, they were making the effort to get the ball out of LeBron, Luka, and Austin's hands. All those guys had the ball. Obviously, they're going to. But in terms of the complete control they could put over the offense, the plan was make the other guys do it. If you are DFS, if you are Gabe, if you are Rui, if you are Jordan Goodwin, you have to be taking those shots. And if they are threes, you need to be putting up those threes. Because you are guys who are well within your rights to be putting up those shots. That's part of your job duty. But if you are not putting up those shots tonight because things seem cold or whatever, then truly the offense is going to fall apart. Like the only way you're going to get it from cold to tepid would be if these other guys make their shots, if they put up those shots. Otherwise, you're just going to have a bunch of moments like I described before where Goodwin had that open three and kind of flinged it over to LeBron, who was put in a bad position.
Right. And it's also too, it's not like there are certain times when defenses work an offense into an open shot from a guy who they are hoping takes the open shot. Like that's why they're wide open. But Houston knows, Ime Udoka knows Gabe Vincent in the corner is a really good weapon for the Lakers. He knows that Dorian Finney-Smith is as rock solid a 3-and-D shooter as there is in the league. Like he's just really dependable and has been for a few years. Those are shots that are supposed to be taken by an offense. Like you said, like it's different than, Jackson Hayes is open in the corner and you just back off of it all day. A lot of teams would start to force it. And a lot of teams would, especially when you've got Luka, LeBron, and AR. It's the other part of it that makes this game kind of impressive in the box score is the amount of field goals that those guys took. It wasn't like any of those three started really forcing the ball up a ton and taking incredibly high volume shots. 16 shots for Luka in 38 minutes. 12 from LeBron. I mean, I just know some of them are going to the line, but 12 from LeBron, 11 from AR, and 39. I mean, like that says something.
When we get back, I want to mention a little bit more about the shot disbursement, but also the shot count, especially when it comes to Luka, because there was something about his night offensively, even when it wasn't one of his best nights, that I really like. So we'll get into that coming up next. Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Gametime. There is nothing like watching basketball live, the energy of the crowd, the sound of the sneakers on the hardwood, maybe a celebrity sighting courtside. And if you want to watch a game in person, Gametime makes getting tickets easier than ever. Gametime's new feature, Gametime Picks, filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats, so you don't waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. Nobody has time for that. And Gametime Picks offers super deals, which gives you the best bang for your buck, and you get peace of mind when you use Gametime, because with features like seat views and no surprise fees, the lowest price guarantee, you can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time.
It's funny, like when you get a chance to see these teams. I realize it's one game with the new, with like the Luka, the Luka Lakers and all that kind of stuff. And so I don't want to read too much into it, but I finished this game going, I wouldn't mind the Lakers playing the Rockets, in the sense that I saw enough from this game that, at least for me, I feel like it's a series the Lakers would win. I feel like they can defend with Houston. Eventually the offensive talent kind of breaks through and all that stuff. But my God, would that be an unpleasant 5 or 6 games? Like, there's nothing enjoyable about it. Like, that's a really gritty, physical team. There, what it is like? Remember,
it's like playing the Knicks in a series. Like, even if you win, you're not going to enjoy it.
Remember when Memphis used to be the team that everyone would beat before they lost in the next round? Like, Houston's got a feel of that. Like, it's such a grind to eliminate them that, but I I liked the matchup once I saw it a lot more for the Lakers. I do feel like they could be, obviously better than they were, and I'm sure Houston's saying the same thing. But I this Western Conference is bonkers. But anyway, you wanted to make another point.
Yeah, when you were talking before about the shot disbursement and how it's 2 games in a row now where a lot of stuff was very even and that a lot of stuff didn't feel forced. Luka was 1 of 7 from behind the arc, which obviously is not a clip he wants to be shooting at. But I liked that it was only 7, and I think that it was only 7 reflects the idea of things not being forced. And it was interesting. Earlier today, I was filling in for Steve Mason on the Mason and Ireland show on 710 ESPN in LA. And John Ireland brought up a clip from Skip Bayless, who did, I don't know what show this is or if it's his own podcast, like whatever, but he said that he thought the Lakers have a fatal flaw in that Luka takes too many threes. And John didn't agree and asked me what I thought of it. I said, look, man, I never like saying this, but if you look at the numbers, Skip has a point. And I took a look at the splits. Again, pains me to say it, but numbers are the numbers. I took a look at the splits since basically the All-Star break, which is essentially Luka's time as a Laker. And Luka averaged 1.5 or so threes more in losses than in wins. Even though in losses, he shot 6% higher in the losses than he did the wins. So he was taking more threes at a higher clip, and the Lakers were losing more of those games. And in the meantime, too, in wins, Luka's usage was lower than in losses. And what I think the correlation is, and I think I brought this up after maybe the Chicago win or excuse me, the Chicago loss or the Memphis win. But I would like to see Luka take a few fewer of the step back threes, because I think those are the ones that are often being hunted the most. And the ones that are being hunted, I think, are the ones that throw the offense out of whack the most. And it's not that I don't want Luka taking threes. Obviously, he should be taking threes. And that step back three, when it's dropping, is a real weapon. But you want to make sure that you're not hunting it for the sake of doing that and just looking for it, because otherwise you end up, just like I said, throwing the offense out of whack. And even a night like this game against Houston, where they were having issues getting going offensively, I think there was a discipline on Luka's part to not just try to get it all back in a hurry and hunt that shot. It was a night where I liked what I saw from behind the arc, even though he wasn't making anything. You're muted.
Yeah, let me run this by you. I think Luka has an opportunity here, because if we're going
Seriously, if you're spamming,
if we're going to do these things, if we're going to do the live chats, and people are going, if we have to spend our time moderating the chat because of a-holes, then we're not gonna be able to do it.
Or
just can't run a show. We won't be able to run it with live comments.
I was going to say there will just be no comments.
Right.
So
if there's going to be a chat, and you look, the spammer doesn't care. They're trying to shut it down, but whatever. That's just how it's going to be. But anyway, Luka has an opportunity to not have to do stuff. Like he arrives in LA, and everybody is so excited for him to be here that there's no pressure for him necessarily every night. Like it's not going to be front page news. What's wrong with Luka? Did the Lakers make a horrible mistake? If he has a game like he did on Monday, where he's 1 of 7 from 3-point range, and he gets to 20 points but takes 16 shots, and we can focus on the good stuff that he did and just be like, the shot's going to come around and not worry about it. Whereas in other places, in Dallas or whatever, it's like, it's just the expectations are different. The context is different. He's going to get to that point. Like, there certainly will be a time when it's like, this is, you need to produce at a, 38-8 clip, or, it's like, or it's not going to, it's not going to work, but he's not there yet. And so I think there's a luxury here that he can take advantage of like, you don't have to take 25 shots a night. Nobody's going to think any less of him. Nobody's going to think he's not all world Luka Doncic. It's like, the thought just sort of occurred to me when we were talking about this, like there really is an opportunity here because of who he's surrounded by and the fact he showed up in LA so unexpectedly. And the entire city is like, this is awesome. I think there's something to that.
Well, I want to save this for a longer show, but I think there is a real difference in LeBron showing up for this team, arriving for this team as the franchise face versus Luka. That's very different in ways that aren't entirely fair to LeBron, but I think really speak well to what lies ahead for Luka in this fan base. So we can save that for a different show, not after a game when we have just more time to get into it. But the last you have to figure that meeting that JJ had before the Memphis game with LeBron, Luka, and Austin about trying to get everybody on the same page offensively, trying to get everybody to really work as a trio in synergy without calling out Luka or any one person specifically. There is an element of, I know that I said the offense runs through you and we want you ultimately to have the highest usage in the aggregate. Like, that's likely the way it's going to be, but it still can't be. JJ, I think, doesn't want anything to be heliocentric. Even when you bring in a guy like Luka, and Luka has been a very, heliocentric player over the course of his career, you still don't want it to get that far out of whack because it defeats the whole purpose of having three guys like Luka, LeBron, and Austin who can take control of the offense so much. And all three of them having that type of control over it is what makes it unpredictable and difficult to defend. The minute it becomes too heliocentric, even with a guy as great as Luka at being heliocentric, or LeBron, or in certain respects the way Austin's getting better at it, you're still not getting the greatest version of the offense, no matter how much that one guy may go off. You know what I mean? It still defeats the purpose of what they're building there.
They just have it's obviously Kyrie Irving is a stunningly good offensive player and, can do a lot of stuff, but like it's LeBron, to have LeBron there too, again, it's a size question. It's like, there's so much that is there in terms of potential and shot creation wise for the Lakers that you're right. You don't want it to get too bogged down into one guy, even though like that doesn't mean Luka can't be the functional, fulcrum of the offense. He should be initiating the offense most of the time when he's on the floor because he just moves the pieces around so well. But that doesn't mean he has to shoot. And the ball just needs to move. Like it's been very well established with this group that when the ball moves, when they get 26, 27, 28 assists, 29, whatever, they are really hard to beat. Anyway, we got a couple days before their next game. It's Thursday against the Warriors. That is another significant one. We can break down a little bit more of the schedule. I was asked a couple of interesting questions on the Western Conference group show on Monday, which I think might be up. I don't remember if it's up yet or it's coming out on Tuesday. But either way, plenty to get into over the course of the week heading into Thursday's game. We will see everyone tomorrow.